All right, for this next part, we're going to put together a couple of more things that we've talked about so far. And again, I don't think this is going to be difficult, but it's all about keeping things separate here, keeping our multiplying separate from our combining as far as these variables go. Um, so we'll take a look at this first one here. The one thing I put up here in the corner is uh, if you're not doing a very good job of remembering to box things off, that's what I would stress so much for this, and you'll find out why in a little bit. I put this problem down here twice because for something like this, we could either do the distributive property to start with, or we could combine together what we can and then do the distributive property. So let's try it both ways just to show you that you're going to get the same thing no matter what. Let's start with combining and using the distributive property. So when I combine these together, I'm still going to have the 3 on the outside, and I know that I've got, and boxing off again, important, I've got a negative 7, and I've got a positive 4x, and then the other two are just regular numbers. So negative 7 and positive 4, both x's is going to be negative 3x. Then I have 2 and negative 10, positive 2, negative 10. Those will go together to form negative 8. I guess I can move my parenthesis over here. And now I have the distributive property. I have 3 times everything that's on the inside here. Okay? So 3 times negative 3x, we've talked about, is going to be negative 9x. And then 3 times just straight up negative 8 is going to be negative 24. Those two things cannot be combined together. That's the answer to our problem. Now if we go down here and we actually just do the distributive property and then combine at the end, it'll work out just fine. I've got the same thing here. I've got boxing off these two, I will, and then maybe in a different color I'll do this, but still kind of boxing off here, making sure you keep the symbol that's in front of it. This doesn't have a symbol in front of it, but that just means it's positive. So now we can use distributive property here. 3 times 2 would be 6. 3 times negative 7x is going to be negative 21x. 3 times 4x is going to be positive 12x, so I put plus 12x. And then 3 times negative 10 is, of course, going to be negative 30, so I'll put minus 30. Now I should be able to combine things together. I've got this negative 21 and I've got this positive 12. Put those together, that would be negative 9x. And then I've got my other two here. I've got a positive 6 and I've got a negative 30. Those two together equal negative 24. So either way, as long as I put things together that go together, I'm going to get the same answer for this one. For our next question here, same kind of deal here. You've got a couple of different ways to do it. Real important, and I saw a couple of people do this when we did the simpler distributive property, is that if you've got it over on this side, the number, and you want to put it over here, that's okay, but you can't change the order of these. You can't change whether they're positive or negative. So that makes a big difference. So I like to even box off the thing on the outside just to understand that this is negative 2. So I'm going to do this both ways again. I'm going to combine first up here and then use the distributive property. So if I combine first up here, I've got a positive y and I've got a negative 4y. If I put those things together to start with, positive 1, negative 4 is going to be negative 3y. Now if I look at my x's, I've got a positive 1x and I've got a negative 3x. Put those together, that's going to be negative 2x. And then I've just got the 7, which doesn't go with anything else. Now I can do my distributive property. If you want to put this over here, that might, that's fine. That's not a big deal, but we kept everything else the same. Negative 2 times negative 3y is going to be a positive 6y. Negative 2 times a negative 2x is going to be a positive 4x. And then negative 2 times just positive 7 is going to be negative 14. So that should be our answer right there. Now, let's do this for this one too, but let's just do it straight up how it is. Negative 2 times x is just negative 2x. Negative 2 times y is just negative 2y. Negative 2 times negative 3x is positive 6x. Negative 2 times negative 4y is going to be positive 8y. And then I have a positive 7 times negative 2, which is negative 14. Now we can combine some things together that go together. I've got negative 2y, and I've got positive 6y. X, excuse me. Negative 2x, positive 6x. Put those together, we get positive 4x, which is what we have. I wrote it first in this one, but it's the same thing. We got positive 4x right here. Now for the y's, I've got negative 2y, positive 8y. Put those together, that would be a 6. So that's going to be positive 6y. As you see up here, I've got that up here too, positive 6y. And then I can't put the negative 14 with anything, so we'll just put it on there, minus 14. So here's our answer. We got the same thing, no matter how we did it. Other types of problems you're going to be looking at will be where you have a distributive property within a problem, which is not that much more difficult here. So when I look in the parentheses, I can't combine anything together, so we just need to do the distributive property. A lot of times what I'll do is, and I think this helps out, I would put a box around everything that's the distributive property to understand that I need to do the distributive property with that. It helps kind of keep it separate. So this is going to be my distributive property part right here. Okay. So within that, I know I'm going to be taking positive 3 and I'm going to be multiplying it by x, and I'm going to be multiplying it by negative 4. So 3 times x is going to be, of course, 3x. 3 times negative 4 is negative 12. And then I just put the rest of the problem on the end of it here. So I've got minus 5x. Now I can combine and solve this problem. Negative 12, of course, is going to be by itself because it can't go with anything else. So we've got 3x and negative 5x, which is going to be negative 2x. And again, it doesn't matter the order that you put these things in, as long as if you boxed off your entire answer, your negatives and positives would be the same no matter how you wrote it. So if you wrote it this like this, it's the same thing because we've got negative 2x, negative 2x, negative 12, negative 12. All right, another one of these. I can't combine anything in these parentheses, so I'm just going to focus on the distributive property for right now. Okay. So I've got negative 4 times negative 6x, which is going to be 24x. I've got negative 4 times negative 5y, which is going to be positive 20y. And then, of course, that's my distributive property part right there, so I can replace all that with this because that's what I did when I used the distributive property. Then I just bring this down. I've got plus x and then plus 8y, and now I can start combining together. We got a 24x and an x, which is going to be 25x, and then I've got a 20y and an 8y, which is just going to be 28y.